let's get clear about financial statements. 65. And it's laid out pretty well in the book, but when you go back to your hospice, this is my hope in teaching this program. The first is that you will see the utter madness with doing budgets, why they don't work, and all that. We might as well talk about some of these like right now while we have time. Let's just describe the budget process. Okay, let's say we're on a calendar year. When do you start the budget process? Somewhere around mid-year, and we send out our little weenie spreadsheets to everybody, little budget packets, it's Spreadsheet, City, and Finance. And what do people do with what they send back to you?
Take what they spent and mark it up.
Yeah, they jack it up. They got like a governmental mindset. If I don't spend it,
Right.
I mean, this is where this is so sick. If I don't spend it, I'm going to lose it, and because that's what happens, and this is where this is where the herd ideas just take over. And people just don't question or really think about this stuff. It blows me away. And by the way, I used to be there too, because I didn't know any better. For years, I didn't know any better. Okay, and so they pad it. But what do we know? Any CFO worth their salt has what? The official CFO budget whacker. Megan, how much you need in your budget? You need 20 grand for that? There's 10. Hey, Kathy, what do you need? 40 grand? There's 25. Hey, what do you need, Greg? This thing's
60 grand.
60 grand? You're in the front row. Here's 50. Okay. This is what happens all the time. So everyone puts slack, budgetary slack, in their numbers. All come up, and of course, it's Spreadsheet, City, and Finance. We're working late, actually, on this useless thing. I mean, it's just pathetic. And some of us even have stress about this. Self-created, based on your perceptions of the world. Okay, and so Spreadsheet, City, and we're working it, and finally then we get something that's good, and let's take this to the board. So we go into the little board meeting, and the board takes a look at it, and of course they try to act like they understand the business, fulfilling their fiduciary responsibility, and they stamp it. Yes, done my part. And then they go back to their insurance company, or legal practice or whatever. Okay? And period one, getting into January. We look at the financial statements, what do we notice? A little variance, between actual and the budget. Okay? Month two rolls around, variance a little wider. Third month, it's like, oh, well, this is like, there might be calls for restated budget, at a certain point or whatever. And let's reenact what the finance and maybe the board meetings are like. This amount is over budget because census was more than anticipated. This amount is less than budget because census was less than anticipated. Again, the board's sitting back, this is so deep. And what do you know? Any CFO that's been around the block a few times knows that once you hit around the midpoint, that old budget doesn't mean anything because we're in the new budget process. Not only that, these people that had that budget think they actually have that money to spend. Okay, what causes this? So we've actually armed ourselves for overages or variances. Okay, what is a variance in a traditional system? It's the combination of two variances, an efficiency variance and a volume variance. But the volume variance clouds the efficiency variance. It's far better to have a system that basically is an efficiency system. That's when we talk about the model. It's a pure efficiency situation, where if you have a census of 100, you're graded on a census of 100. If you grow it to 150, you're graded on that. If you grow it to 1,000, you're graded on that, on your efficiency. But I see CEOs, some just getting killed. I mean, let's take this even deeper. Where a CEO will shoot straight with the board of directors and maybe be quite ambitious and say, we can grow by 100%. We're going to do the model. And we're going to go from a census to 100 to 200, which is a fairly common thing. Okay? Well, let's say they don't quite implement with the tenacity. They only grow by 50 patients. So they get up to 150 patients a day. But what's that budget look like? They look like they're sucking wind, right? They've merely only grown 50%. And that board, that uneducated board, ignorant board, is ready to kill that person. I've seen this happen. We're talented, and because they don't know. This is where there needs to be a revolution, first of all, in who can even be on a board at a hospital. They better know the business, because it is a business. Okay, whereas if they had a model system based on percentages of net patient revenue, you got to 150 from 100. Okay, you didn't get to 200, and I'm not saying you get away with your goals and where you drive a stake and where you want as far as that, but we did grow by 50%. Profits are good, all this, and we see how we operated. So we're graded against that rather than, again, being drug over the coals just because we put out an ambitious budget. Okay, let's say that the board backs off a little bit. What's that CEO going to do next time around, next year? Are they going to put together anything that's ambitious? No. Pile that thing with slack. Is this not sick? Okay, so what we're saying is you end up establishing in a model, both for, obviously how you answer the phones, how you do visits, basically all the things that you do, including your financial amounts. You establish your MPR amounts, and you just write them perpetually, and you never have to go through a budget process again. Once in a while, you do need to review your model percentages and see if you want to change them or the external world's pushing against a couple or whatever. But you just never have to worry about it. If somebody needs a budget, just kick that baby out 12 months in the future. You're good to go. Maybe too rich for some folks. Might have to pad it a little bit. We got some folks that, you can go half a decade or whatever, they have not touched their model. They've not, and there's all kinds of hospices that don't do budgets now. I used to think that was going to be a kind of a difficult thing, but, folks get this. So what do you do as a CFO? You pick up all kinds of time to do actually valuable work, rather than taking the bottle of stupid pills of watching what other accountants for organizations that are not that successful doing. Okay. No allocations. We should not be doing allocations of indirect costs within the ledger. Why? They're arbitrary. Okay? This week it might be we're doing percent of revenue or percentage of cost or patient days or whatever. It's all crap. You take your indirects, the cost of a finance department, IT, don't distribute it to all the teams. Let it lay in its own buckets in the GL with no attempt to distribute. And then you measure that. Okay, now with this said, Multiview, we are experts at cost accounting. Okay, that's the one, all our systems are actually built around that because we thought that hospice was going to be more managed care. I mean, back when I was, earlier on. And then realizing, again, we're being paid so much that we could be pretty sloppy and do this. You have to do allocations, which we're going to talk about in this program as far as when you start to get to your cost by diagnosis, by patient, by all this stuff. You use allocations, and we'll use a multi-step allocation thing, but it's not done in the ledger. It's done in your specialty costing applications. Even in all of you that are benchmarking, it's automatically, the fundamental widgets for your cost accounting are being done automatically for you through benchmarking. And all you have to do is take those visit costs or visit hour costs is actually your main thing, and you load it every quarter into the activity codes of your patient management system to use the power of the relational database to run a revenue and expense analysis, as in like an Allscripts, or in a Hummingbird or a Cerner. And this is how we get very precise estimates of cost, which all our financial statements are estimates of costs in reality. Okay, so that saves a whole, and also when you have allocations, let's talk about it from a management standpoint. We want laser beam focus on it. And what do we know, those of us that are CPAs and whatever, about the topic of responsibility accounting? The rule there is never put costs which are not controllable to those individuals. Why? First of all, they cause a delusion of focus. It's demotivating because they cannot control it. And you own responsibility. One of the rules is, again, only give them the costs they can control. The only place where we will use some allocation will be benefits. I don't like to see hospices with whole bunches of benefit accounts. That is something that can be allocated, but again, at least it flows directly in line with salaries and wages. Okay, so it is controllable, but that's just the way we efficiently we decrease the number of accounts. Otherwise, you don't do it. So you stop doing that. Use F9 or other dynamic data exchange tool. Okay, maybe some people here can't get there. Most of you can. You're using Dynamics, you're using Mass 100, 200, whatever they are, using SIMA, you're using whatever. Most of them are F9 compatible system. What's F9? It's a dynamic data exchange tool. Once you tell, and it's an add-on to Excel, most of us know how to use Excel, so it's an add-in, so we already know 90% of what we need to use this report writer. We map it to your GL, and it reads, and then you can type in May. There's your May data. Oh, no, I wanted May last year. I type in May last year. It understands common language. I could put period 5. I could just put 5. I could put, no, I want Wednesday. I want, and suddenly I got a tool. Again, that's where if I find accountants slapping a bunch of GL stuff into spreadsheets, again, I'm going to slap you in the most loving way. It's just because that went out. I remember the first time at Palm Beach, I put it in, and I put in a formula. Because you only have to learn about 4 formulas to use F9. And you can modify anything that Bill Gates has put into Excel. Okay? And I remember a number came back. And I thought, holy shit, I can rule the world with this thing. And now, I know I cussed there. It was mainly for effect. But I just thought, I'll never have to hammer another thing into any format I want. I can do regression analysis. I can do exponential smoothing. I can do all these things I know how to do. And just with no, just make it once, and then there's a gift that keeps on giving. Timeliness. That you're closed out in the third, at the most, fourth week of a period. Some people do a little tighter closes, but a lot of times there's more accruals, and I just got to go, Again, I've not seen really efficient, accurate closes, much less than that. The 3 weeks is my favorite. And again, if that's all I was doing, I was CFO, that's what we're doing, baby. And we may have 47 locations in 25 states, and we'll get it done. Because we're not chasing paper. Documentation is all in, all that. I'm just saying that when you get standards and get things rolling, that's the way it is. So timeliness. And you're always timely on your comp systems. If you're late on the bonuses or anything like that, the comp system does exactly the opposite of what it's supposed to do. It becomes a demotivator, and they will hold you with contempt, the CFO. Because this is your shop, and I would give you a 0 on if I was the clinical leader grading you for that month. Because I just came out of a hospice just the other day, and I just couldn't believe, some of the marketing people, the hospice was like, 6 weeks late. And she's going, God, I was counting on that. So the top marketer, is actually bawling. And then they wonder, why they got some issues. But, CFO's sitting back going, no pain on his side. Not thinking about customer service. Timeliness, accuracy. This is basically your competence. Presentation. We always use the same, you'll notice in the multi-view world, we always use the same flows. Your earned revenue on top, less your, bad debt and contractual allowances, then going down to direct labor focus, then down to what? Patient-relateds, okay, down to operational, all that. But where you only have to train people in one system, same flow, okay? You only use a few reports. People do not get their own financial statements. Okay? So we'll go through these. A comprehensive report that shows everybody where they are in the model. Your team reports where they're all laid out. They don't get their own thing. Once in a while, your inpatient unit might get a, there's always some exceptions, might get their own. But even then, I try it. If I don't have that many teams, I put all my teams laid out, and then the IP unit versus their model on the same. Because I want everybody knowing where everybody is, and they got all the information. They can dig into the detail if they want. And then an indirect one, that basically even indirect areas, finance, HR, IT, all are shown in the same reports where everybody can see who's winning and who's losing. Who sucks at management, who's making it happen. Method of delivery, we email them out. Don't say, hey, they're on the H drive or whatever. No, they're in their inbox. Because you're removing the excuse they didn't get that. And then, again, we talked about these internal consistency issues. Just determine what reports we're going to use to manage. So in all scripts, we're going to use the revenue and expense analysis. We're going to use, gives us probably the, 4 or 5 essential things. We'll talk about that. This is what you're going to be held accountable. Weekly visit reports. This is what it's going to look like. These are the reports we use to manage at Sunny Day Hospice. Any questions on this? But again, I'm just going to say it one more time. When you go back to your hospice, this is what I expect you to do. And And your CEOs will be reminded that this is what you came here to do and to learn. So that they can hold you accountable for this.
I'd like to work smarter than harder, so where do we learn anything about the F9? I mean, I work awfully hard in Excel, but
Yeah.
doing the stuff you're telling me
Not to do.
shouldn't
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, and this has to do with, again, we take a look at, obviously, what's the accounting system? Sage. Okay, within, you'd probably pick up an F9 module of that. You have to get them, we can give pretty good discounts for folks. That's when we can't, you'll have to get it right from them, same with Blackbaud. And then, like say, we actually provide the templates. Again, you can make your own if you want. I mean, we're not saying whatever, but there's a fundamental logic about how we structure things. Again, based on what the 90th percentile are doing. And can you see where this would free up or make your life better? As a personal, as an individual. If you don't have to do a budget every year, that's just like removed. And you have a pure efficiency system. Okay, so you get all that time back. Every month you can just run the things out and go, boom, 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 boom. Here's the 4 things we're working on, let's go. And then you spend your time, teaching and working with those people that are either out or maybe you got a great practice, like someone's just crushing it. Just to hit this would be one example of an all or comprehensive report. Here's another one that's, you can get this, you can just download them off our system. This is the team location report. But here would be all the areas, all of my different locations. I see exactly who's running that place. I see their labor, that's in relation to the model, their patient-relateds. I see their contribution margin, which this is what I'm paying these people on as far as performance every month. Here's my inpatient unit. Here's my palliative care. Here's on-call admissions. Where are they at? I see who's running it. Here's our indirects. I see that finance is led by, if you go here, there's Captain Crunch. You see where Captain Crunch is. IT is being led by who? Sid Vicious. You always wonder where he went when he left the Sex Pistols. Well, now you know. And you see who's winning and losing. And if you've got your comp system in there, you know who's getting the bonus and who's taking a dig. What leaders are feeling some pain with maybe 10% off their 2-week pay cycle because they're outside of the model, even 0.1%. Your team location report, we've got all my teams located, spread across. You see their direct labor, patient-relateds. I see the model. I can identify best practices, worst practices. If this was issued out and I was on the South team, and let's say we had a portion of the team pay, and for the last 3 months I didn't get my portion of the team pay. North team did. What am I saying? Can I transfer to the North team? I want to work for Terry. I want to work for a winner. And if they need any detail here, again, you provide the means of being able to getting that out. Here's an indirect report. Here's administration as opposed to the model. Here is, QAPI, education. Again, they're not getting their own financial statements.